A new freight route just went live connecting China to Central Asia. But this isn't just another railway story, because behind this move is something much bigger, a shift in how global trade is being built, quietly and in real time. While most people are focused on headlines, China is expanding something far more important: control over how goods move across continents. And if this continues, it could reshape not just trade, but power. Earlier this month, a new freight corridor linking China, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, and Tajikistan entered pilot operation. The first shipment moved from Lanzhou in China to Dushanbe, marking a new operational route through Central Asia. At first glance, it looks like a routine logistics upgrade. But if you zoom out, this is actually part of a much larger strategy that's been building for years. And now, it's accelerating, because this route isn't meant to stand alone. It's part of a system. To understand why this matters, you need to understand how China moves goods globally. For decades, most of the world's trade has relied heavily on sea routes. They're cheap, efficient, and scalable. But they also have a major weakness. They depend on a handful of choke points. Places like the Strait of Malacca, the Suez Canal, and other narrow passages where disruption can slow or even halt global trade. And in today's geopolitical environment, that risk is no longer theoretical. So China has been working on something different: a parallel network, not replacing sea trade, but complementing it. And that's where these new Central Asia corridors come in. The key development isn't just the launch of a single train route. It's the activation of a new multimodal corridor, meaning goods can move across multiple transport systems across borders in a coordinated way. China to Kyrgyzstan, to Uzbekistan, to Tajikistan. This matters because instead of waiting for massive infrastructure projects to be fully completed, China and its partners are already testing and scaling routes in phases. In simple terms, they're building the system while already using it, and that dramatically speeds up real-world expansion. Behind this corridor is something even more important: the long-discussed China-Kyrgyzstan-Uzbekistan Railway, often called the CKU line. This project has been talked about for years, but recently, momentum has picked up. Regional leaders are now signaling clearer timelines, with expectations pointing toward completion around 2030. If built, this railway would create a new direct rail link from Western China into Central Asia, bypassing existing routes. And that's critical, because right now, much of China's overland rail trade into Central Asia depends heavily on Kazakhstan routes. Adding another pathway doesn't just increase capacity, it changes the strategic map. So why is this accelerating now? Because the global trade environment has changed. We're no longer in a world where efficiency is the only priority. Now countries care about redundancy, control, political risk, and supply chain security. And that shift has made Central Asia far more important than it used to be. It's no longer just a region between major powers. It's becoming a connector of multiple systems. And this isn't just theory. Rail freight activity between China and Europe, and across Eurasia, is growing again. In the first 2 months of 2026 alone, over 3,500 freight trips, carrying more than 350,000 containers, and with significant year-over-year growth. That tells us something important. These routes aren't experimental anymore. They're being used, and usage is what turns infrastructure into influence. Now let's go deeper, because this isn't just about moving goods faster, it's about building options. If one route becomes unstable, another can take over. If one region becomes politically sensitive, trade doesn't stop, it reroutes. This is what resilience looks like at a global level. And in geopolitics, resilience is power, because it reduces dependence. For Central Asian countries, this shift is significant. Countries like Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, and Tajikistan are no longer just peripheral players. They're becoming part of a strategic transit network. That brings investment, infrastructure development, and increased regional importance. For example, Kyrgyzstan has already framed the railway project as a way to transform itself into a key logistics hub rather than a landlocked endpoint, and that shift could have long-term economic implications. But every shift creates pressure somewhere else. As more routes emerge, existing transit hubs may lose some dominance, trade flows become more distributed, and influence becomes less concentrated. Even established routes through countries like Kazakhstan could face competition over time, not necessarily displacement, but diversification. And diversification changes leverage. If you zoom out even further, this isn't just about Central Asia. This is about how the global trade system is evolving. We're moving from a world of few dominant routes to multiple interconnected corridors, from efficiency first to resilience first. And China is positioning itself early in that transition, not by making dramatic announcements, but by gradually expanding real-world connectivity. So when you hear about a new rail route or a pilot freight corridor, it might sound small, but these are the building blocks of something much bigger. Because in today's world, power isn't just about military strength or economic size. It's about control over systems. And right now, China is quietly building one of the most important systems of all: how goods move across continents. If you found this breakdown useful, hit like and subscribe, because we break down the global shifts most people don't see yet. And as always, this is not financial advice. Just informed analysis to help you understand what's really happening behind the headlines.